We have Manuel. Maybe you take the couch, Manuel, and we let Fran take the chair. All the way from Google in Paris. Take the farthest chair. And then we also have Francisco. And then Pedro from Portugal is here. Okay, and he can sit there. So good news, no one has a presentation. So we'll just check the microphones are all working. So Fran, yes. Can you speak into the microphone? Say hello.
Try to speak, yes.
Perfect.
Can you hear me?
Microphone?
Hello?
Yes,
hello.
microphone.
Hello.
Microphone.
Hey, how are you doing?
One, two. Okay. 1, 2, 1, 2. Is that working?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, so we just let the people kind of get in and get out right now. If you can do it all quickly, that'd be fantastic. So people who are leaving get to leave. Okay, so the next panel is the most amazingly comprehensive title, The Fundamentals of Success and Growth for Creating Digital Innovative Business Models. So clearly somebody was being paid by the word to come up with that. Anyway, we have a fantastic, interesting panel, and I'm sure they're going to have interesting things to say. Okay, adelante, Fran. Round of applause, please, for the panel on digital business models. Yay!
Thank you very much. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming to this session. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Fran Romero, so I work in Amadeus IT Group. I am the head of Open Innovation Programs. And it's a pleasure to be here with such a fantastic panel. No? We have a very interesting topic to discuss. Please come in, join us. And as Todd has said, the topic is called The Fundamental of Success and Growth for Creating Digital Innovative Business Models. So please allow me to introduce each one of the panelists. You will see that we have a very different backgrounds, so they will be able to provide different angles to the topic. And we can jump straight ahead into it. So here on my side, we have Manuel Balsera, which is the Senior Vice President, Marketing, Sales and Digital of AMC Network International in Southern Europe. On his side, we have Pedro Rocha, Co-founder, President and CEO of Beta E. We have Federico Pienovi, Head of EMEA for Globant. And then we have Thomas Anglaret, Creative Technologist at Google Sous France, Google Sous based in France. Okay, so please allow me to welcome them again with a round of applause. And we propose to jump straight into the topic. So I would like to start with you, Manuel, if you don't mind. You have more than 25 years of professional experience, having spent more than 3 years in your current position. Would you like to please start and share with us which are your main learnings and the main approach that you think a company like yours should follow to drive innovation and growth in the digital ecosystem?
All right. I work in the television environment, so my approach is more corporate than the usual start and venture activity. I do that on the side, so I'm a venture capitalist for digital business. But I will be talking on the approach on a sector that is television, which is it's been disrupted by companies like, you probably know, Netflix and so on. So when you're working in a very traditional business model, like it's in the case of television, your approach has to be something completely radical, especially when someone has disrupted your business already. So our approach is, how can we disrupt the disruptor? Which is a nightmare, because actually you didn't disrupt at the right time, and now you have to be more aggressive into that. In that sense, what we develop is trying to create innovative business models that works together with our current business model. I think that's a very common practice in the corporate world. In the case of television, it makes no sense to develop a new Netflix, as Netflix already exists. So our aim is, what can we do on this side, trying to develop business models that will complement our current business model, and that could, in the long run, create a disruption towards, in this case, Netflix, HBO, Hulu, or something else. So it's slightly different than the conventional approach.
Very good. And when you think of a new alternative business model, do you try to test it quickly and directly, or you directly implement?
Our approach is basically the same that you will find in a startup. So lean startup is critical for us. We try to fail very fast. You know, the intensity of the amount of money that we have to spend on the project will be very high. But if it's working, we will put more money into it. And if it's not working, we will kill it, you know, very fastly. I think the way to approach this, it doesn't matter if you're a corporate or you're a startup. The way to do it is the same way in both cases.
Very good, thank you. Thank you. Pedro, on your side, Beta is one of the main entrepreneurship and innovation organizations in Europe. What is your perspective on this topic?
So, good morning, everyone, and thank you for the invitation. So, at Beta, we were born from the ecosystem, so we were like almost 10 years ago. And right now we are focusing two things. One is building innovation ecosystems around startups, so how we can really help startups to grow, and also how to build innovation ecosystems around corporations. With startups and digital business models, of course, everyone knows that because most of industries have been unbundled and digitized, so there's a lot of opportunities for startups to come up with new solutions. So at BTE, we mainly work with the accelerators. We also have a venture capital arm, so we invest and look for founders that are really driven and have find a solution that can really disrupt the market. And for that, it's very important that they can scale very fast, so they build a strong culture, that they are able to put a product and a technology that is really compelling and attractive, a very strong value proposition, and then they can find a way to grow very fast. With the corporations, it's a different approach. So a lot of the startups that we work with, they have their own path. A lot of them, they go out and to disrupt big corporations, but also believe a lot in the collaboration between startups and corporations. And corporations are changing very fast, but a lot of them struggle. So it's very important. What we do is to help companies to define better their innovation thesis, to define better what is their roadmap of innovation, where they want to tackle, the capacity building, to change management process. Because digital transformation in big corporations is a lot about transforming the whole organization. It's just not finding a new way to develop products and technologies and to digitalize their business. Is completely transforming the way they think. So it's making the leadership have a completely new mindset, a new narrative about the future. Is bringing the whole organization around it. It's to have a much more customer-driven approach, which is a lot of times it's difficult because, and for that you need a lot of training, a lot of change management. You need a lot of to work a lot inside the organization. And so we do this by helping them to have better insights about the clients, and also about bringing new methodologies. A lot of the methodologies that startups work, so lean startups do fast prototype fast, and a lot by collaborating and doing open innovation with startups. And we're working in different sectors, and it's amazing the results we've been seeing. But it is a process that takes a lot of time. Yeah, it's a challenge, but with good results.
Very good, thank you. Federico, does this resonate to you? Because you have been more than 10 years trying to help organizations to transform and to move into the next level of innovation. What do you think?
Yeah, right. So essentially, we believe that growth is when you have success moving from an idea, an MVP, to an actual business model that works. And I have the privilege of not working on only one company doing that transformation. We work across all industries with many companies, helping them drive growth from their digital innovation. I think what the main problems or the main challenges that we see in customers is that all customers want to do digital innovation and drive new business models, but essentially they don't put enough manpower into it. They're still very focused on their core business. So they create the Chief Innovation Officer office, and they put some resources, but they don't really change the focus or the mindset. So we, in order to help achieve that growth, that in many cases is not ensured, is we focus on 3 areas. The first one we briefly touch upon is how the complete organization becomes more agile, right? And it's no longer if software development is agile, it's no longer if we are doing Scrum or if we are doing, it's how the whole company is behind this idea of innovation. And to do so, you have to change the way the company operates from our organizational structure. Then is having a cultural change, right? When you are doing innovation, you're bringing new ideas to the table, you are essentially bringing things that you are not certain about to the world. So if you have a culture that kills those ideas before actually have the time to surface, it's very difficult for that innovation to really drive growth and to create a business model. So the culture also has to change. And finally, and this is a buzzword for everybody, put the customer in the center is not as easy as it sounds. It obviously has to come with a different mindset, design thinking, embed in everything that we do, and how actually, I always say this example, right? Now we have many banks saying they are customer-centric, customer-focused, but for the last 200 years, they have been giving loans to people. They have created 100 different loans. You have an auto loan, a mortgage, a personal loan, credit card, and they have, instead of thinking about the customer, they fragmented the customer in a million pieces. So I'm fragmented within the same bank. So how you change that mindset, how you think the company is going to grow only because the customer chooses you, and you start defragmenting those customers. So that's where we focus.
Fantastic. The topic of changing the corporate approach to innovation, I guess, is a very difficult one. No? It's not so easy for a big corporation to change the mindset into being more agile and more open to new things, right? It's probably one of the toughest things to consider, no?
Yeah, of course, because at the end of the day, they move because of fear at the end of the day, right? Because their core business is still working, is still giving revenue, and is still marginally growing. And if you don't realize that they're going to suddenly take over from outside, it's very difficult for you to decide to invest in innovation.
Very good, thank you. Thomas, you have more than 10 years in the digital advertising approach, and on top of that, I know that you love to experiment and prototype with new technologies around machine learning, virtual reality, artificial intelligence. Could you please explain us your view on the topic, please?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So I'm Thomas. I'm part of Google Zoo, which is a creative team at Google, as you can see. So we focus on solving brands' problems, especially on digital, because that's what Google stands for. We are a think tank, so a small creative team within Google. We are kind of revamping our offering to actually fit brands and creative agencies' need, to be there when they need us, only when they need us, to get things done. So it's very tech-focused, very data-driven. So we have a design thinking methodology adapted for brands that covers insights, ideation, and execution. And you kind of, it's a modular approach, so you would rather focus on one of the modules if you need, just for the sake of time and optimization. So what we've seen is that brands come up with different goals. So one is covering the campaign and kind of deadline, and the other one is also like to transform their business. And they are interested to actually learn from how to do that in a kind of expansive mode and be open to any kind of solutions that may arise from the collaboration of different skill sets within the same room for a really limited amount of time. So we think and we try to make. So it's hard to combine both in such a like 1 to 3 days together. But I think it's really the starting point of something longer for something transformational for business. So that's kind of my contribution and my team's contribution to Google overall kind of direction. So Google, as you know, aims to actually organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. And I think we are along that, we are going in that direction too as a team. Because I mean, Google is kind of enabling that mindset to strive and to and so open ideas and try to actually collaborate transversally between different teams. This is super important, and this is what I think drives growth overall. So maybe I didn't answer all of the question, but so yeah, one part that we do is to scale access for users to information. So that's one thing. So through YouTube data optimization in the next billion market, for instance, next billion users market, to growing hardware, Android hardware support, and that's something real tangible that Google does in that direction of accessing information for the user. And the second part is to scale the developer ecosystem, so to ease the access to the tools, which are cloud, which are machine learning, that is a hot topic. But there are many other fields that are a bit niche that Google intends to kind of scale and partner Google wants to partner with developers to actually grow the information access and the servicing of users. So internet overall is growing, and there are new behaviors that you need to service, and there are new opportunities, and I think Google is a big partner for growth overall.
Thomas, when you mentioned to scale the access to the developers, to the service, you mean both internal and external developers, I guess? Or
Yeah. So I would say that I'm confident to say that most of the good stuff that we have internally that you can see on our products. So it could be Gmail auto replies. It could be any kind of like photos, image recognition that surfaces the right information for you. This goodness you can take it to somewhere else externally on other products that startups are trying to tap into. And I think this is where growth takes place. So we are kind of an open ecosystem for developers to try things.
Very good, thank you. So I have one more question for you, and I'm pretty sure that almost everybody here in the audience is trying more or less the same thing, no? Which is how to come up with new business with an innovative approach, and probably almost everybody will be able to leverage on your learnings, because we have different profiles, no? From very big corporations, from people who assist small and big companies at the same time. So if you had to give them an advice, 2 or 3 advices or guidelines that they should follow to try to achieve that goal of new innovative business models, which are the ones that you will consider, Manuel?
I will say that there are 3 major things. The first one is, and is very well known, trying to solve a problem. The second one will try to satisfy a desire. And the third one is trying to create a new category. If you have those 3 things in focus, you're starting to build up something. On the second hand, if you're coming from the corporate world, don't think about your actual business. Think about something else, completely different. How to disrupt the disruptors. So don't think about how do I want to disrupt the banking or the insurance sector. Think about how I'm going to disrupt the companies that are disrupting the actual banking or insurance or television sector. So I think the approach is having clear objectives regarding those 3 parts, and if you're in the corporate world, trying to go one step beyond. In AMC, we have a very famous series, which is called The Walking Dead. We have 2 series on that, The Walking Dead and Fear of the Walking Dead. I keep talking with Josh Saban and the rest of the senior executives in New York. We have to begin to think about how to not to kill the Walking Dead, which are the analogical or small digitalized television companies, but begin to kill the rest of the individuals that are actually surviving in this world.
Not to kill the Walking Dead, okay. So in your point, not to replicate, no, in general, no? So you have to really go to the next step and move to another level.
That's quite difficult in general with the corporations, because usually instead of, they are looking always to the rear mirror, which is something that just happened. So you have to look even back to years and years before, and look forward much longer than the side that you can see with your own eyes. You have to be very ambitious in both senses.
Absolutely, very good. Pedro, what would you say?
I agree a lot with what have been said. So for startups, it's very important, yes, to solve a real problem with a very, very clear value proposition, and especially if you create a blue ocean or a new category or something, a new market is really important. To be really passionate about what you do, because it's very, very tough to surround yourself with great people. Focus on product and great technology, but more than that, a business that you can fine-tune and be very flexible to pivot. Be careful about how you're going to grow, and plan your funding wisely and in advance. So build a lot of relationships with time, because throughout your journey, you're going to need those relationships to be nurtured, and not only when you need, you have to activate them. So it's all about planning and managing that, and building very, very strong culture. More and more, attracting talent is very, very difficult. So if you don't take care of your culture, and you don't create a place where people like to work, and you can really, really retain good talent, you're going to be ruined. On the corporate side, it's a completely different thing. I agree completely with what has been said. innovation is impossible without a real change from the whole organization, especially from leadership.
Top. Yeah.
If you don't understand that things are going to change completely and that you have to change your mindset in a completely radical way, and for that you have to change the way you act, you behave, the way you lead people, you're not going to be able to do it. Of course, it's very difficult to change the core of the organization in the beginning. It's important that you go on the edges of the organizations, and from there you try to start disrupt the company, the industry. But I completely agree that if you look only to the rear mirror, if you act only out of fear, if you just do things like doing it's IoT, artificial intelligence, like going to do blockchain, if you just repeat what everyone is doing and you don't think strategic about why I'm doing this, what exactly is in place, and one of the things that I think is very important is to completely redesign, prepare to redesign very fast the organization, because people and culture are the most important things. A lot of the roles that are going to be relevant in the future don't exist yet, so if you are stuck with old architectures, you're not going to be able to design a business, design an organization that is going to be prepared to deal with flexibility and agility to what comes. If you're not able to try faster with less risk, and reduce the cycles, it's going to use a lot of corporations that we work with. They take almost 2 years to come up with a product to the market. Now that's
slow.
It's not. It doesn't cope with the reality. In 2 years, the market is completely different. The clients are completely different. The technology will be completely different. So you have to be able to really, really act much faster, and that takes a radical change in terms of how you run a business. And this kind of changing the mindsets and changing the narrative of the future, the purpose of the organization, is something that leaders have to do and really have to communicate through the whole organization. And yes, I think most of the best companies that I see, they pay a lot of time to the purpose and a lot of time to what will keep them on business in the next 20 years. And for that, you have to really think in a disrupt way and to allow completely different solutions emerge from your company.
Fantastic, very clear. Federico, what would you say?
So a little bit of all that the team has been saying here. Essentially, I would recommend asking 3 questions. Right? The 3 questions are: I'm satisfying something that no one else is doing, or I'm doing it in a very different way. If I'm trying to digitally innovate, and make sure that you have this idea very fleshed out. The second one is: can I do it fast and cheaply? Because if you want to make sure that idea surfaces in the company, it has to be a way for you to put it in front of customers really quickly and get feedback about it. Because, like Peter was saying, if you put a roadmap for your product, you can put a roadmap for 3 years for your product. But if you don't get the feedback and you take 3 years to get that product out or that business model out, you're going to be late already. So make sure that if you are ready to have that acceleration and put that in front of customers really quickly. And finally, is my core competencies in the company around this new business model? Because if I'm a telco and suddenly I say I want to become a bank, make sure that that this idea, you have the internal team to take it to the finish line. If any of those questions is no, then you probably should kill that idea and move forward with the next one.
Fantastic, very good. And Thomas,
yes.
Will you agree with all these comments? Will you add something different?
So I do agree, yeah. So I would add, do one thing very, very well. Be recognized for it. So appeal to the world. Show your best possible face. I would challenge what exists. I think it's a good point. And also understand behaviors, so human behaviors. So be a humanist if possible. Try to do good. Try to invent something that you would like for yourself. And that's something that I see that animates some entrepreneurs, and that's super strong. So that drives them super far. I would say seek for innovation, but maybe more people that can innovate. So set the stage for innovation to happen. So that means maybe meeting rooms, maker spaces, things that, like open spaces is one thing, but how do you make it friendly? This is another. Yeah, and think big, but go step by step. I think this is like trivial, but go back to the basics, essentially.
Very good. And Google is very famous for that precisely, no? For creating those conditions, no? To flourish, no? To seed.
I would say so. So far, so good for me. So.
Fantastic, very good. Well, I think we have a perfect recipe, no? Between all the contributions from our partners for that. So that's it. I would like to thank you, all the panelists, for the contribution and for being here and listening to all of us. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.